Good evening, everybody. That was about three of you. Let's try it again. Good evening, everybody. So much better. Thank you guys for coming out on a rainy Wednesday night. You have stumbled into, if someone's dragged you down here also, this is the Grand Slam for West Side Stories. A couple of people have been here before. Again, this is, I believe, the fifth year that we've had it here, and this is the fifth year in a row that we have sold it out. So thank you guys very much. It might be the fourth year. I don't know. I'm not really keeping score. My name is Dave McCarney. I will be your host. I will do other things too as the night goes on. But I will also, if you don't know what you've stumbled into, these are 5-minute true stories told live on stage without notes. Having said that, I'm going to pick up some notes and thank all of our sponsors and tell you about the prizes because it's not really a story. So there you go. Couple of things. First of all, the prizes this year, we got so many prizes that we didn't just go for first place this year. We have a first, second, and a third place. And I know, and a lovely trophy back here that we have. That is the proper way to respond to that. Nicely done. You guys all made it to rehearsal. Very nicely done. I like it. First, well, let's start with third place. And I got to tell you, you know what? Let me start with the sponsors. Or one in particular. He's not on there, but John Tunn and Petaluma Sign Company. If you need a sign or some painting or a mural, I'm telling you, you cannot go wrong with John Tunn. He is totally amazing. First of all, if you've been to our store, Wicked Slush, which is not far away from here, he is responsible for everything that has been done inside there. He just does great work. If you go up and down the boulevard, 256 North, Brewster's, I can't remember the name of the Peruvian place down in the end down there. A bunch of new places up on Kentucky Street. He's just fantastic, and we have the opportunity, and you need a sign made. John Tunn with Petaluma Sign Company is the guy. Yes. Okay, so the reason I say that is because he's responsible for half the prizes. We asked him if we could get something, and he said, yeah, I'll get you a gift certificate to 256 North. And the next thing you know, he showed up down at Wicked Slush. I don't know if I've mentioned Wicked Slush yet. Have I? Okay. All right, good. Because I will mention it again, I promise you. So anyway, third place tonight is going to get a $25 gift card to Rex's Hardware. I know. Also, $25 to Threads, which is a new store up on Kentucky Street. All this stuff is local, and we need you guys to shop local. Have I mentioned Wicked Slush? Also, $20 gift card to Boho Bungalow, another brand new place over on Kentucky Street. $20 gift card over to the Juice House, which is over on 2nd Street. To Applauds, very nice. And then I don't have it up here, but it is coming, a 2018 bottle of rosé from Barber Cellars, and we thank them very much. There's some really cool stuff from Barber Cellars coming up. And they also get a $10 gift card from Wicked Slush and a nice bottle of port from Sonoma Port Works right there. So, yeah, that's only third place, folks, for crying out loud. Second place also gets Rex's, Threads, Boho Bungalow, Juice House. They get a 2018 bottle of Zin from Barber Cellars, Sonoma Port Works bottle over there, and a $15 gift card to Wicked Slush. There you go. It's moving up. First place, besides the trophy and getting their name on the Eternal Plaque, which has all of our previous winners on there, they get $100 to 256 North. They get to Threads, Boho Bungalow, the Juice House. They get 2 tickets to a future show right here at the Mystic Theater. They get a complimentary tasting over at Barber Cellars and a complimentary tasting at Barber Lee Spirits, which is just 2 doors up. It's their new place. Bottle of Sonoma Port Works and $20 gift card to Wicked Slush. I could have, I didn't. Yeah. It ain't your money. All right. Also, a couple other things. We have a new story slam that is starting January 18th. This is the coolest thing. If you don't know me, I told you my name's Dave Mccarney. If you do know me, I've been called worse. I will tell you that. I will let you know that I made my living as a stand-up comic for 10 years back, in another lifetime. And I will also tell you that out of the blue, the former owner of the Other Cafe, which was a great, great comedy club down in San Francisco, 3 people remember it, but that's okay. It was at the corner of Carl and Cole. It was a great club. Chip Romer, he approached me with an email out of randomly and came to one of our shows. And then it turns out he's the development director at a little arts high school in Rohnert Park called Credo High. All right. And he approached me and asked if we wanted to do a version of West Side Stories over there at their new Black Box Theater. They have a 180-seat theater that we are going to start January 18th. There's a bookmark with some of the themes. We're going to go through the end of the school year, have the Grand Slam right on graduation day. No, we're not going to do that. We're going to have the Grand Slam in May, and that's going to happen at Credo High School. The information is there, but you know what you can also do is join our mailing list, Dave Mccarney Presents, and we will give you all the information that you, in fact, way more information than I can give you here tonight, unless I don't let the tellers come up. No, that's not going to happen. All right, let's see. I have some other announcements I'll make as the night goes on, but in the meantime, let's start talking about some stories. I'll tell you some of the rules first. At some point, 5 minutes into the story, they are going to get, you're going to hear a bell over here. That bell means they have 60 seconds to wrap it up. Tonight they get a little extra because I don't want anybody to get disqualified, so they are going to get 90 seconds to wrap it up. But you're going to hear the little bell. Don't be thrown off by that. Hopefully the teller is not thrown off by that, but they've all done this before. You are seeing the best of this year. These folks, all of them, are winners from West Side Stories over at Sonoma Portworks. Have you guys been to Sonoma Portworks? There you go. I got to tell you, about 7 years ago, we were looking for a new space. We were over at the Pelican Art Gallery, and we were struggling to fill it every month. And Bill and Karen Reading pulled us up off the scrap heap and brought us down there. And when we walked in originally, we went, yeah, there's no way we can put 30 people in this place. And Bill, who's a genius, he just says, everything's on wheels and it moves out of the room and we can put 80 seats in here. And I was like, okay, let's give this a shot. And the next thing you know, with their help and of course my wife's help and my kids' help, we have made this 10 years now. This is our 10th year doing West Side Stories. Thank you. And obviously we've sold out this one, but that 80-seat house sells out like that. So get on that mailing list. We send you an email and let you know when the tickets go on sale. So you will also know when the stories from Credo's Black Box go on sale too. So there you go. That's that Credo person. There you go. There you go. So tonight our theme is one thing leads to another. And all the stories should be based on that theme. And I'll tell you about how they, I'm going to ask you all to turn your cell phones off now. We will use them later on tonight. At the end of the night, we will vote. A lot of these story slams, and no disrespect to any of them, but they do voting differently than we do. We prefer to do an audience favorite, and that's why you all get to vote on your phone later this evening. The instructions are in the program, but I also will go over them. A couple of people were confused. I don't know if they were trying to vote early or what. It's the Chicago way. Vote early, vote often. I gotcha. So anyway, folks need to keep close to the theme. That would be great, which again is one thing leads to another. Everyone that you're seeing tonight has one. We have 2 wild cards in here tonight that were voted in by the other 11 tellers. So those people are very worthy of being with us as well. Let's see. I think that's all I want to start out with. And that's that. So there you go. So for me, it all began in 1977. That's when I got my driver's license. I failed the first time that I went for my driver's test. Then about, 3-4 weeks later, I went in and got the test. 3 weeks after that, I got my very first moving violation. All right. And that started a string of being pulled over that is, I think, unprecedented. I am not making this up. I swear to you, and I have counted them all. I have been pulled over 33 times in my life. 33 times. I know. Thank you. Thank you. I, however, only have 9 moving violations. That is a pretty good percentage right there. Yeah, I know. You know, what happens is a lot of times people tell the police officer what to write a ticket up for. You know, the police officer comes up to the window and they always ask you the question, do you know what you did? Or do you know why I'm stopping you? Or do you know how fast you're going? You know, there is a correct answer to that question. And it's always answer the question with a question. Do you know why I'm stopping you? Why? Do you know what you did? Why? You know how fast you're going? How fast? Have you been drinking? Have you? Kidding on that one, but the rest of them, absolutely. I have been pulled, for me, it's automobile, some sort of car issue that in a past life I was some sort of cattle rustler or something. I ended up actually teaching traffic school for 13 years, for God's sake. I was sentenced to 13 years of traffic school, ladies and gentlemen. That's bad. I actually, I've been pulled over for the weirdest stuff. I was actually pulled over once for my license plate being flipped down. Y'all remember when the gas cap was underneath the license? Like several of us are in here. Okay, boomer. All right. Me as well. 1974 Bonneville, the gas cap is underneath the license plate, and the license plate was flipped down. I got pulled over for the license plate being flipped down. Police officer comes up to the window. You know why I'm stopping? I said, why? He goes, your license plate is flipped down. How about if I just go flip that thing back up? And he wants to see if it's a stolen vehicle. It's a 1974 green Bonneville. For God's sake, I'm 17 years old. If I'm going to steal a car, it's not going to be this piece of shit right here. But all right, run a check. Finds out it's my dad's car. Oh, my God. I was pulled over 3 times in San Francisco, 3 times by the same police officer within 9 days. Not making this up. All for the same exact same thing, too. First time I was just sitting in the car. I was waiting for my wife to get out of a show. She used to work in theater in Fort Mason at the Magic Theater. And I was sitting in the car waiting for her. And a police officer comes up to the window, and he goes, you know why I'm stopping you? And I'm like, I was actually parked. You didn't stop me, but why? And he says, well, did you know your registration is expired? I said, no, actually I didn't. And he writes me up a ticket for it, and he says, you have 21 days to take care of this. And I'm like, okay, great. I got 3 weeks, no problem. 3 days later, I'm driving into Fort Mason again, and I see the police car sitting there, and I'm like, oh, there's no way I'm going to get pulled over. Gets behind me, lights go on, comes up to the, it's the same guy. And I go, what's up? And he goes, do you know why I'm stopping you? I said, are you stopping me because my registration is expired? He goes, yes. I said, well, you ticketed me for that 3 days ago. He goes, I did? Oh, yeah, here's the ticket. I showed it. It's like a hall pass. I'm in high school. Here it is. He looks it over and he says, carry on. There you go. And he looks at me and he says, you have 18 days to take care of that. Thanks for the update, Kojak. Appreciate that. 3 days later, I am not making this up. I am pulling in again, Fort Mason. Lights go on behind me. He comes up to the window. I look up. It's the same guy. I go, you are not stopping me for my registration being being out. And he goes, yes, I am. I said, look, you pulled me over 6 days ago. You tagged me. Pulled me over 3 days ago. Gave me an update on my timing. Here it is, 15 days. I get it. He goes, okay, thank you. You have 15 days to take care of it. Weirdest stuff happens to me in cars. My car was broken into in San Francisco 3 times within a span of, I think it was about 3 months when I first moved into San Francisco. First time was south of Market, and here's my suggestion. If you ever go south of Market, I would say park your car, I don't know, Katati, maybe? Probably safest place for it. I went to a dance club, and we're coming out after the club closed, and I'm walking up to the car, and I can see, I have a hatchback, and I can see through the back window that things are not exactly where I had left them. And so when I get up to the door, I go to open the passenger door, and somebody had jammed like a screwdriver in there and opened it that way. And I look inside, and I can see that my car stereo has been pulled out, which is odd because I didn't have a pull-out car stereo, but just pulled it right out of there. And then the electrical wires that are hanging out of the dashboard, they took black electrical tape and wrapped them up and stuffed them back in the dashboard. Now that is a conscientious criminal right there. That's very nice. couple. I'm driving around now with like a little portable radio, $25 at a garage sale in the back seats. And a couple months, maybe 6 weeks later, somebody bashes in my right rear window, takes the $25 radio, leaves a $400 overcoat. The window cost $86 to get repaired. 10 days later, I don't even have the sticker peeled off the glass yet. Somebody bashes in the same window, takes my high school Letterman's jacket. And I know when I walked up here, most of you all thought athlete right away. But I earned that high school coat. I played 3 years of baseball, a couple years of basketball, and 1 year of football until I got my head knocked in a little bit. But I earned that jacket. In fact, my friends of mine and my friends and I in high school, we did something a little silly. We you know, you have your rival school. We went to Jefferson High School in Daly City, and Westmore was the rival up there. And our senior year, homecoming for Westmore, we decided we would go up to their school and vandalize their school, you know, like every high school kid does. And we went up there, and in 1979, when I graduated, vandalizing a school was, you know, we took bars of Ivory soap and wrote Westmore sucks and Jefferson rules, and we threw toilet paper all over. And then we just took it one little step further, and we took 5 gallons of gasoline down to their football field and mapped out to the 50-yard line, and then poured a big J out in the middle of the football field. And then my friend Gary lays down and lights it. And I don't know if you've ever lit gasoline, but it's not like, you know, you see in the movies like gunpowder. No, this just, he's engulfed in flames. And I always thought, thank God we didn't go to Oceana, because, you know, we could get out. So they took my high school Letterman's jacket, which is weird because my high school jacket has my last name, Picorni, in big 3-inch block letters on the back. Picorni. It's not Smith, it's not Jones. Picorni is back there. 6 months go by, I get a phone call from Gary, the guy that lit the J, who's now an Oakland police officer. Gary actually, I know. Gary actually calls me up. He says, Dave, we have your jacket. How the hell do you have my jacket? They said they were sitting on their beat one night, and he saw this woman walking towards him with a jacket on, and they go, that looks like a Jefferson High School coat. I wonder whose coat that is. Getting closer and closer. They can see right here, it says Jefferson Indians, 1979, and we're like, that's the same year we graduated. I wonder whose coat that is. She walks right by. They can see my last name on the back. There's a hooker walking around Oakland, my last name on her back. And they walk up and they say, hey, where'd you get the coat? She says, this is my boyfriend's coat. Thank you. Yeah. They just doubled over laughing. They said, you know what? We know that guy. Give us the coat back. And they got it, and it's still in a box waiting to be fumigated at my house. So there you go. That's my true story. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Ready to get this little competition rolling here. All right, well, the applause is going to have to be a little better when this first teller comes up. All right, don't wait, hold on for them, okay? Let me tell you a couple little quick things about this teller. You may have recently seen this teller on Late Night with somebody. Who's it? Colbert. He was on there. You may have also seen him on the Jay Leno Show, and you may have also seen him at West Side Stories. This is my personal pick to win the whole thing tonight. This one coming right up here. I don't want to be biased at all or anything like that, but this one right here is my personal pick. Please welcome to the stage, ladies and gentlemen, Ray Engan. Here he is.
So I was just in Oakland, and I saw this hooker wearing a Picorni jacket going, wicked slash, wicked slash. $450 people, and I'm standing in front of you. When I was in 3rd grade, I put a bucket on my head so people wouldn't talk to me. How did we get from there to here? Wait for it. One thing leads to another. So everything that messes you up in life starts when you're real little, right? When I was real little, my mom wore these little wraparound skirts. Remember those things? And when I would get shy, I'd just walk inside the safety of mom's wraparound skirt. Well, at the very first open house with every parent, every teacher, every student in attendance, one of the teachers, Mrs. Carrillo, happened to wear the same wraparound skirt my mom did. Looked identical. I walked in the wrong skirt. School thought it was the funniest thing they'd ever seen. They laughed. They called me names. This was back when bullying wasn't bad. It was an art form. But I shut down. I didn't speak too much to the first 4 years of school. Dan Lewis, I would talk to Dan Lewis. I used to eat lunch in a ditch underneath a window, and that window led to the teacher's lounge. I can't tell you what the kids called me, but I can tell you what the teachers called me. The quiet one, that monk kid. And I didn't realize what life was like until I finally got to 5th grade. And there I had a teacher who wasn't just worried about pushing people through, he wanted to make a difference in people's lives. His name was John Huber. And when I walked in, he didn't look at me as a problem. He looked at it as a puzzle that he could solve. And the second day in school, he called me up and said, "Hey, I know your secret, Ray. Don't worry. It's safe with me." Like, secret? What secret are you talking about? Well, you sit in the back of the room next to Dan Lewis, and you whisper things in Dan Lewis's ear. Then Dan tells the rest of the class. The class laughs. Dan's the class clown. You, my friend, are the class clown's head writer. I liked that. He would stop Dan in the middle after he said something that was funny. He said, "Dan, did you say that, or was that Ray's?" I got street cred for being funny without ever saying a word. This is a great world, right? The kids would come up to me and say, "Mr. Huber says you're funny." "Are you?" "Go ahead, say something funny." And I did. I now had 6 or 7 friends. It was the best year I've ever had in school. And most teachers would look at that and go, "Yeah, I got this." Mr. Huber's like, "Nah, you aren't even halfway finished yet." He pulls me aside in the middle of the year and he says, "I noticed you didn't audition for the school play. Don't worry, I'm the director. We're doing Shakespeare this year. I saved you a role. You're going to play the lead in the school play." My eyes bugged out like a cartoon. My jaw dropped down to here. He said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa. Have I ever led you astray?" "No." "What's the best year you've ever had in school?" "This one." "Why?" "Because I talked to more kids." "What if you could talk to all of them?" "Mr. Huber, that would be very scary." But he took me under his wing. I hope you've got someone like this in your life. When I showed up in this guy's classroom, it was as if he handed me a cup full of confidence and said, "Here, drink it up." He even made this little, he called it the urn of unstoppability. It was a Folgers tin that was over glittered. And when a kid couldn't do something, he gave it to him. And lo and behold, every time he gave them that little urn of unstoppability, they could do whatever they couldn't do before. That's scientific proof to a 5th grader. He led me step by step, almost line by line, to build my confidence to be able to talk to everybody in the class. I now had 30 friends, and I was doing this whole play, and it was fantastic, and I felt great about everything. But have you ever tried to change yourself? It's like pushing a rock up a hill, isn't it? You get so far, and you move a little bit, and it comes crashing back down. You got to push back up. Have you ever tried dieting? Right? That looks like kale, 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 donut. Kale, kale, donut. The night before the school play, I realized there's a big difference between 30 people that you know and 217 people sitting in squeaky folding chairs in an auditorium that you've never met before. So I tried to get out of the school play. But I had to call Mr. Huber. "Mr. Huber, I think I'm going to be sick tomorrow." "You know tomorrow's the school play, Ray." "Yeah, don't want to get those people sick. Wouldn't be fair to them, would it, Mr. Huber?" He always talked about being fair. I was using his words against him. I felt so proud. And then he asked me something, and he thought, "Oh my God, he's leaving me an out. Do you feel a thump right here?" "Yep, probably having a heart attack, Mr. Huber." "Can't do a school play having a heart attack. Wouldn't be fair. No, wouldn't." And then he gave me the best piece of advice. Is that the bell? All right. Sponsored by AT&T and Dave Mccarney. He gave me the best piece of advice I've ever heard before or since. He said, son, that thump you feel in your chest has nothing to do with your heart. That thump, that's your dreams knocking on your heart's door. You have to open up your heart to let your dreams in. And for the rest of your life, you'll always feel that uncomfortable thump. But when you feel it, smile and walk toward it, because something great is about to happen. Don't you ever fear it. Feed off of it. That's pretty good advice, isn't it? Guess who's doing the school play the next day? I'm standing there. There's 2 lines left in the school play. I'm on a stage just like this. There's 2 lines left, and I have no idea what they are. How do you think I felt? I stood there, and my mom said, oh, you look like you were about to cry, but then you did the weirdest thing. I don't remember the crying part. I remember the weirdest thing. Because how did I feel? Oh, that's good. Smile and walk toward it. So I smiled, I walked toward the audience, and I said the first thing that came to my mind. Lord Shakespeare has written tremendous lines to end tonight's play. But alas, I know not what they are. Mr. Huber dropped the curtain. I heard the applause just like I heard it there, and I went over to apologize to Mr. Huber, and he looked mad at me. His eyes were red. And he said, no, get back on stage. And I heard the people applause, and I stood back on stage, and then the curtain went back up. And people weren't just clapping, they were standing. Because the kid that didn't speak for 4 years just ended the school play by improvising Shakespeare. And I'm happy to say, I haven't shut up since.
That's Ray Engan, ladies and gentlemen. One more time for Ray. All of these lovely things that I mentioned, the bookmarks, which are for the Stories from the Black Box, and also West Side Stories for next year, all the themes for the first 6 months, well, I'll mention that in a second, are sitting right outside in the lobby there on your way out. You can grab one and take it home with you. And also you can grab a Wicked Buck there, and that right there is a buck off of pretty much anything you want to get over there, unless it costs less than $1, because I'm not giving you money back. But that's over there as well. All right, now we're going to read a couple of these little things right here before we get moving. Let's see. My favorite, I'll only tell it this one time because it'll get boring after a while, but my favorite quote in the world is, if the world were a logical place, men would ride side saddle. That's Rita Mae Brown said that. Okay, the favorite quote off of this one is, the axe falls first on the tallest tree. Yeah. I can resist anything but temptation. And this person's favorite quote, no quid pro quo. Ladies and gentlemen, time for your second teller right here. You may have seen her recently on The Tonight Show. She's also been on Late Night with David Letterman and several other of the amazing shows. My personal pick, I don't want to show any bias at all, but this is my personal pick to win the whole thing here tonight. Please welcome to the stage, Deanna Dawson.
I'm not secure enough to hold this in my hand. So I first came to Sonoma County when I was 19 years old. I went to the University of Oregon, and my best friend went here to Sonoma State. And as I would come down for vacations to Southern California, I'd stop and have wild adventures with her here in Sonoma County, and we had a lot of fun. In fact, we had some fun here too. And she had a long college career like I did. When she was in college, she lived in Rohnert Park, Cotati, Pengrove, and Petaluma. And one time my friend and I came up to hang out with her in her Pengrove. It's not a house, it was a shack. We called it the Chicken Shack. And it was in a field. And as after we'd had some drinks, we were walking towards the house and the door was moving. And we weren't hallucinating because we all saw it. And when we got to the door, we realized there were hundreds of pincher bugs all over the door. Those ones. And Anne was terrified because that Star Trek episode where they put the bug in the ear to eat the brain. And so she slept in the car, and we slept inside. And when we came out the next morning, no pincher bugs. It was a Sonoma County miracle. And after college, I moved to San Francisco, where I lied my way into the up-and-coming .com boom. And I went from $3 burritos 3 times a week to 5-course meals. Our motto was work hard, play hard. I got it wrong. And we did. And Lucy moved here on D Street. She rented an apartment with some roommates, and her friends got married and had kids, so her entertainment was a lot of birthday parties and soccer games. And I loved coming up to visit her. One time I came up and we were having midnight breakfast in one of your fine local establishments, and she was madly in love with a guy named Richard. And as we got in the booth, I said something about Richard, and she said, "Quiet! This is a very small town." And I looked around at the other 4 people at the Henny Penny, and I was wondering which one is the spy. And then I myself became a Sonoma County resident 3.5 years ago, and it was love at first because I like fairs and festivals, and Sonoma County loves fairs and festivals. And I've been to the Tulare Fall Festival and the Sebastopol Apple, Rivertown Revival, Accordion. If you have a festival, I will go. And one of the things I love about Sonoma County festivals is you can buy a cup and you get this punch card and you get to taste all these wines and beers, and if you're nice, they'll give you more than it tastes, and I'm really nice. And I learned something the hard way that I'm going to tell you now so you guys don't have to make the same mistake. At the Santa Rosa summer one, they give you a punch card with 10, and I thought you had to use it all in one night, and I got very drunk, and then I learned you can take it back every week, so avoid that. I learned that the longer you're in Sonoma County, the further away things get. So I moved to Santa Rosa, and I would tell people that I was going to Petaluma. They're like, "All the way to Petaluma?" I'm like, it's like 30 minutes away and a couple exits. And then, now that I've been here a while, I live in Petaluma, and my doctor's in Santa Rosa, and I was late for my appointment, and the person behind the counter said, "You can't see the doctor." And I said, "I came from Petaluma." And she said, "Oh, Petaluma, okay." And I got to see the doctor, so that was really good. I learned that the people here are super resilient. I was in Santa Rosa during the fires, and I watched neighbors helping neighbors. I know people who lost their homes and remained optimistic and valued the things that mattered most. I went to Petaluma Drinks and learned that Petaluma Gap is the youngest AVA, and for those of us who don't speak wine, that means wine region. And so if you can get a bottle of wine that says Petaluma Gap on it, and I'm so excited to tell people about the wineries right here in my backyard. I also, when I moved to Petaluma, learned there was a welcome wagon at the Aquas Cafe. And I don't know if you guys know this, but these people volunteer, your neighbors volunteer to welcome us people who are new to Petaluma. And I went there, and one of the things I learned was that the Aquas Cafe was not just great for bagels and coffee, but also a community center with poetry and music and storytelling. And I'd wanted to do storytelling forever. And in July, I got up and told a story, and well, here I am today. The reason I moved to Petaluma 8 months ago is because I got a divorce. And it was good. Sorry. But I am on a lot of dating sites. And on my dating sites, it says I'm 48. And because there's so few of you, and I've heard you guys can keep your mouth shut, I'm actually 51. I know it's surprising because I'm so stunning. And on really bad days, I realize I'm where Lucy was half a lifetime ago. I am single. I rent. My family is my German Shepherd. And my career's not moving up. It's actually, I'm just trying to figure out how to work less and live more. That's only on bad days, which are really rare. On most days, I love my apartment. It's the perfect size for me and my dog. I love that when I drive to work, I pass llamas and cows and miniature horses. I love meeting my neighbors and hearing their stories. I really like who I am right now. So I can't be too upset at the choices I got from here. Thank you.
Deanna Dawson, ladies and gentlemen, one more time for Deanna Dawson. Real quick, I want to do a little shout out to another one of our sponsors, the Argus Courier, ladies and gentlemen, our local paper, yeah. And specifically David Templeton, who couldn't be here tonight because his new play is opening, but specifically him because, I don't know, about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, he came to us and said, hey, how about if we publish the story of the winner every month in the Argus Courier? And we were like, God, I'm going to have to sit down all day and write down all the words that person... No, all we have to do is record it and send it, and they transcribe it, and it goes in the paper. We send them a nice picture of it, and they do that for us every single month, and I really want to thank the Argus Courier. And right now I got a couple more of these things right here. What's your favorite quote? Is that all there is? Peggy Lee song. Life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans. John Lennon. I believe music is life's only true magic. Give it all the respect that it deserves. All right, folks, this next storyteller, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say probably the winner tonight. You've seen her on, I believe she's been on Rachel Maddow. She's also been on Jimmy Fallon and a couple of Chelsea Handler shows. You guys are in for a treat. I'm not biased at all, but probably tonight's winner. Please welcome Juliette Mccarney.
Done anything impulsive? I once impulsively decided to cut all my hair off because I saw somebody at work that had gone from shoulder length to like a Michelle Williams pixie. It was 2003, so it was sort of in. And I was so impressed with sort of all the accolades and attention she was getting, I wanted to do that too. So I take the name of her hairdresser, who I don't know, and I decide to cut my hair from really long to shoulder length. So I show up to Michonne, that's the name of her hairdresser, with my Rachel-like haircut that I'm going to get, because it was 2003. And Michonne takes the picture. She's in Marin, by the way. She takes the picture, and she puts it, but she doesn't look at it, look at me. She takes it and puts it between her hands and goes, and then she says, I kind of go into a trance when I start cutting hair. I'm like, okay, I keep thinking of how great this colleague looked. So off we go. She washes my hair. She comes back. She sort of lops the whole thing to the shoulder, and then she pulls out a razor. And it's like 2003, and I'm like, what's this? And she goes, I do my best work with this razor. Okay. So now she's like Edward Scissorhands, like hair's flying and like gelling and blow drying, and I guess she's trancing or something. And then she stops and puts her hands on my shoulders and goes, let's wash your hair again. And I go, okay. So like we go wash my hair again, and then we come back, and she starts blow drying and gelling and like razoring, and then she's not talking anymore, and I think she's really trancing right now. And then she sort of looks around. The salon is packed, and she leans in quietly, not to upset the other people getting their hair cut, and says, I'm so sorry. You don't have to pay for this. It will grow back. And I'm like, what? And she's like, really quietly, she's like a magician. She like grabs all my stuff. I don't know what happened. I sort of black out. And she's like, She just keeps repeating, I'm so sorry. You don't have to pay for this. It'll grow back. I'm so sorry. You don't have to pay for this. It'll grow back. And I'm outside. I have no idea what happened. And I'm sort of in shock. And so I like get in the car and I'm driving home and I call Dave and he's like, how'd it go? And I'm like, I have no idea what happened. And I tell him the whole story and I get to the end and I'm like, I'm so sorry. You don't have to pay for this. It'll grow back. And I'm like, I think I just need to come home and like wash my hair again and style it because I didn't know what I was looking at. But I thought, a lot of times people don't know how to style my hair. So I approached the door and our kids at the time were 4 and 8. And so my youngest, Miranda, she hears me coming. She like barrels down the hallway. It's like an L shape. And she's like Tom Cruise in Risky Business, like screeches to a halt, gets a full view of me. And then instantly it's like she's looking at the Elephant Man, but she's been told to be nice, right? So it looks like this. Looks good, Mommy. Like that. So I go in and Dave sees me and I'm like, well, and he goes, yeah, maybe you just need to wash it and, style it again. I'm like, I don't have any time because I've already made plans to go have coffee with one of my best friends. I mean, truth-telling friend, okay? So we show up at the coffee shop. We're about 5 cars parked away. I get out of the car. She takes a glance over at me and goes, oh my God, what happened to your hair? And I'm like, ugh. And I tell her, the razor and the double shampoo and you don't have to pay for this. And she's like, oh my God, you cannot go back to work looking like that. And I'm like, I haven't washed it or shampooed. She's like, And she like hands me the card to her hairdresser. But I already have plans that day. And that's a Saturday. And so I'm like, well, the hairdresser's not going to be available on Sunday. So I'm like, I'm just going to go home and take a shower, wash my hair before we go to this barbecue. So I get home, I do the whole thing. Now we're showing up at a barbecue hosted by a guy named Paul, who Dave and I refer to as, still to this day, the nicest man you'll ever meet. I mean, this guy can turn a weird thing into happy, never a sour word, like super positive. There's like 15 people there, lots of kids. Okay, what's weird about this when we show up, like I've gone from here to here, and not a soul says a word. Like nothing. Like not even like a fake compliment like, ooh, your hair's shorter, or like, wow, got all that cut off or something. Like it's not really a compliment, but it sort of acknowledges it. Nothing. And so I'm like, okay, so like you go through the whole day and we're at the end, we're all sitting around in the backyard. It's like 15, 20 people. Everybody's sort of paired off in 2s and 4s, and I'm sitting with somebody and everybody's talking and eating dessert. And my person says like, what'd you do today? And I'm like, well. And I go into the story. I'm like, and the razor and the like double wash. At this point, I realize the whole backyard has gotten silent. And they're all like eating and listening, right? They're just listening. And I get to the end. I'm so sorry. You don't have to pay for it. It'll grow back. And I'm expecting the people to say like, oh, it's fine, or it's not that bad. I'm telling you, complete silence. And I'm like, huh? Like that. And the nicest man says, it was shocking. It's shocking. I was shocked. And all the other people at their pie are like this. So I like go home looking in the like yellow pages, find a place Sunday to get my hair cut. I call her and she's like the hair cutting the hotline, like bad haircut hotline. She like listens, she's compassionate. She says, fine, come in. So I go. It's like a triage. When I get there, it's like a hair cutting emergency room. There's like the receptionist, there's Peggy and her assistant. I get out, her assistant is like shook by seeing me, okay? She's like rattled. And so she says, you know what you need is a latte. And I'm like, okay. So Peggy gets me in and sits me down as she's calm and supportive. And the assistant, I am not kidding, the assistant brings the latte, sits down at my feet and says, tell me everything. Like it's a car wreck, right? And so I start going into it, and I get to like the second wash, and she goes, is that when you just started bawling your eyes out? Because I would bawl my eyes out if my hair looked like that. And at that point, Peggy like shoos her away, doesn't want to upset me. And so Peggy is like a surgeon, and like no razor finishes my hair I show up on Monday morning. People are like, hey, cute haircut. There might have been a few like short hair, or hey, got your hair shorter or something. There's a couple of those. But for the most part, people were like, hey, good job. That looks great. All I can tell you is Bashan wasn't wrong. It did grow back. But I decided to stay with Peggy for 4 years.
Juliette Mccarney, ladies and gentlemen, one more time for Juliette. Other quick things. Right around a year ago, little over a year ago, our youngest daughter, who was working the door tonight, she was driving all the way up to Healdsburg to go to this Wicked Slush place. And we asked her, you live in San Francisco. You can't find ice cream in San Francisco? What the hell are you doing? And then she said, no, you got to try this. She brought us some. Long story short-ish, 122 American Alley is where Juliette and I now run Wicked Slush Petaluma. And thank you. I was just going to thank Amy Coven, who is here somewhere in the room tonight. Amy, thanks for having some faith in us and letting us sell your beautiful product. We appreciate it. So there you go. All right. And if she's not here, I still mean it. So I don't know what she said. What's your favorite quote? You can't win with a losing hand. You're braver than you believe and stronger and smarter than you think. By Winnie the Pooh, it says. I think this one's also by Winnie the Pooh. It says, keep your penis in your pants. Maybe that was Eeyore. I'm not sure. But. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm about to bring up your next teller. I know you've seen this gentleman. He used to sub for Jon Stewart on that show that he used to do. He's had his own HBO special, a couple of them actually. And you guys are in for a treat. And again, not to be biased, but I'm picking this one right here. This is my pick. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome John Mattern.
So, this is a story about a dog named Kosi. And like all good dog stories, the dog dies. Sorry. But it's also about a cat named Kitty, and it's about magic. About 8 years ago, my family and I got Kosi, a Great Pyrenees, 150 pounds and strikingly beautiful. If you saw Kosi, this is what you said. Oh my God, your dog is beautiful. Or you might have gone with, hey, who's walking who? Classic. And for those of you who are not dog people, I just have to say that a dog like Kosi becomes a part of the very fabric that is your family. He was my guy, and my wife loved him passionately. He helped me raise my daughters. You see, a Pyrenees job in nature is to protect a herd of sheep from the wolves up in the hills. And quickly, my daughters became his sheep, and we became his herd. And so for 7 years, he watched us. And about 3 years into our life with Kosi, my oldest daughter, Josie, started campaigning for a cat. And I felt no need for a cat. We had a dog. But it was about a year into her campaign when I went to one of her soccer games, and she was playing like an 8-year-old with a hangover. And I swear, I'm not that kind of dad. I'm really not. But the one thing I cannot tolerate is lack of effort. And so, Kosi, who never missed a game, went over to her at halftime, and I did the angry dad quiet whisper. I said, Josie, if you score a goal in the second half, I will get you that kitten. And we walked away. And the second half started, and within seconds, Josie had taken the ball, dribbled down the field at a speed we had not yet seen, shook 3 defenders, and netted a shot in the top right goal. Goal! And she looked over at me as I quietly swore to myself on the sidelines, and she said, "Guess we'll be getting that kitten now, huh, Daddy?" So enter Kitty. We now had a beautiful, sweet, wonderful, white, majestic dog and an orange tabby. And the two of them got along fine. They weren't best friends by any means, but they were brothers. And so now we had 6 people, and we moved along nicely. About 3 years ago, we decided to remodel our house, and so we had to pack up the family and move to friends' houses and other family members' houses. And obviously, we took our dog, but Kitty was a cat. And so he asserted himself at a young age of being very independent. He took pride in how much he did not need us. And so Kitty stayed home. But we checked on him every day, and he was fine. At the end of the summer, though, I think that Kitty was maybe starting to feel a little neglected. And I feel that way because he moved out. And he went to the neighbor's house 3 doors down and began living with them. And so when we got back that fall, we all moved back in. Kitty would come to visit us every once in a while, but his visits were skittish and awkward. He was firmly ensconced with his new family. He had made his choice clear. And his visits became few and far between. And it had been over a year that we'd even seen Kitty on the night that Kosi died. It was a Tuesday night in April, and Kosi flipped his stomach, which is a process that's often deadly called torsion that is pretty common in dogs Kosi's size. But at 2:30 in the morning, I took Kosi to the vet, and by 3:30, I had said my goodbyes to my boy, and I drove home with my leash and no dog. And when I got home, I had to take a minute with myself because this was quite possibly going to be one of the worst days of my life because my daughters, when they went to bed, everything was cool. Kosi was fine, but when they woke up. And so I steeled myself. And then I got out of the car and I opened the gate to my yard and I looked back and I saw 2 green eyes staring at me. And I looked closer and I said, "Kitty?" And it was Kitty, and he was sitting in the middle of our quiet street staring at me. And so I walked up to the porch and I looked back and Kitty had not moved. He was frozen. And I opened the door to my house and I said to my wife, Chelsea, I said, "Chelsea, I think you need to come out here." And she came out and she saw Kitty. And she said the same thing that I had. She said, "Kitty?" But she said it full of love and remorse and desperation. And when she said it, Kitty hopped up and jumped over our fence and ran past us on the front porch and into our house. He then went straight to Kosi's bed, which was in our bedroom. He sat in the middle of Kosi's dog bed and he meowed. But this was not a cute kitten meow. This was somewhere from deep and dark inside. This was primal. And then he went into the girls' room and did the same thing. He meowed as he rubbed his head against my youngest daughter who was in the lower bunk. She woke up, and so he went to the top bunk, meowed, and woke up my older daughter, Josie. Both girls then came out of their room because they're giddy and excited by this night visit from their lost cat. And he herded them to me in the living room, and Chelsea told them about Kosi. And the 4 of us, we all collapsed onto the couch in a pile of tears, and Kitty paced back and forth one more time. And then he got on the coffee table, and he sat down, and he stared at us, and he meowed one more time, and then he left our house. The message having been delivered, he left. You see, I think Kosi didn't get a chance to say goodbye to his girl, so he sent the one guy. He sent his brother, Kitty, to say goodbye to our family. And so one thing leads to another. The few days and weeks and months after Kosi's death, we pored over pictures of Kosi as a puppy and my daughters as young girls, and I realized that maybe a chapter in my life was over. I was not raising young, cute things anymore, but Kitty's visit gave me solace. Because even if Kosi isn't here right now, I do think that maybe he's watching his sheep and his herd as we continue to write more chapters. Thank you.
One more time for John Mattern, ladies and gentlemen. Real quick, let's see. I want to talk about another one of our sponsors. Let me just quickly grab this and decide which one I want to talk about. No, I'm not going to. I'll talk more about that in a little bit. In fact, I'll see you guys there tomorrow, right? Good. All right, good. I don't know if you guys have been, when we moved to town in the year 2000, I think it was, no, it was 2005. Does anybody remember what the Hotel Petaluma used to look like? Oh my God, what a dive that place used to be. Have you been there lately? Oh my God, that is like the most beautiful place on the planet, and I want to thank the Hotel Petaluma for being so supportive of storytelling. Just about a month ago, I believe it was the first weekend in November, they hosted 2 nights over there of storytelling. One of the master storytellers in the world was over there. Antonio Rocha was there, and we had a big show on Friday night, and we had the community conference for the Storytelling Association of California, which Juliette and I are both board members of. She's the co-chair, actually. And it was so nice that they hosted us in there, and they have been really supportive with us, with our festival and stuff, and I just want to thank Hotel Petaluma. Thank you, guys. Thank you. All right, let's see. Quote is, reality is a crutch for those who cannot face drugs. So true. Theater is life, cinema is art, and television is furniture. Wherever you go, there you are. Buckaroo Banzai. There you go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, your next teller coming up here, I believe hosted The View like 3 or 4 different times. Filled in for Carson on 2 or 3 occasions when Carson had to take a night off, another divorce, I believe it was. And personally, my favorite teller and my choice to win the entire thing here tonight, not being biased at all and not trying to influence your votes at all, but will you please welcome to the stage Jessica Morell.
In 1977, when I was 9 years old, my harebrained, drug-addled, 20-something hippie parents decided to move to Alaska to live off the land. One thing leads to another, they would say, when moving us, often within the space of a few months, sometimes in the dead of night, with bills unpaid, I highly suspect. At the time, we were living in Astoria, Oregon, in a drafty, damp apartment, where I'm pretty sure my parents survived by growing indoor pot plants. Which explains why I could never have friends over and why our place always had the rank smell of skunk about it. Given that Astoria is tied with Lake Charles, Louisiana, and Port Arthur, Texas, as the most humid cities in the contiguous United States, it makes sense that we needed to move to Alaska to live off the land, as I suspect the conditions were quite right for living off pot. My stepdad cobbled together a rough camper on the back of the 1965 Ford pickup truck that was our family car. My mom, stepdad, 5-year-old brother, and 2-year-old sister all sat up front, while I was relegated to the camper. It had plywood doors that would randomly swing open, revealing my startled face to anyone driving behind us. I would often pray that I might fall out and be picked up by a nice family that would want to keep me. We made the trek to Bellingham, Washington, where we caught the ferry to Ketchikan. This is a 36-hour trip up the Inside Passage through British Columbia. We slept on the decks as we couldn't afford a sleeping cabin and were not allowed back to the lower decks where the truck was. We survived strictly on dry peanut butter sandwiches, which had the odd taste of marijuana, as my mother had stored a huge Ziploc baggie of pot deep in the industrial-sized jar of peanut butter. At one point on the trip, my mom said that we could all go to the cafeteria and share a cup of hot chocolate. My Janis Joplin mom, 3 Rasta-headed hippie kids, my stepdad looking like Rasputin. We went to the cafeteria, and my mom brought us the holy grail of hot chocolate. We squabbled as we each got to take a tiny slurp. While we were there, we noticed a man idly approach a vending machine dispensing pre-made, delicious-looking sandwiches. He took his time choosing, not seeming to notice all 5 of us staring steadily at him. He picked an egg salad sandwich and put it on a tray, and then brought the tray over near us and set it down, alone, unguarded, on the red plastic tray. My mother quickly came to the conclusion that he had abandoned the sandwich and grabbed it. She tore it open and split it and divided it between us. Suddenly a look of horror crossed her face, and just as quickly she ripped the sandwich from our salivating mouths and stuffed it back into the triangle container it had come in, put it back on the tray, and put the tray back. The man came back to the table and stared down at his sandwich. A growing realization changing the expressions on his face. At once, as a family, we immediately exited the cafeteria. Once on deck, my parents howled with laughter at the man's expression, but us kids were just really mad that we had left the last of the chocolate behind. The next day, the chocolate man, as we called him for the rest of the trip, the sandwich man, as we called him for the rest of the trip, approached me on the deck of the ferry, and he gifted me a giant Cadbury chocolate bar and a $20 bill. The chocolate bar I presented to my family with great pride, as though I had hunted it and skinned it. But the $20 bill I kept in my shoe for a very long time as a hedge against future dry peanut butter sandwiches.
Jessica Morel, ladies and gentlemen, one more time for Jessica. When you go into the Hotel Petaluma, there is, in the lobby, a doorway that leads right into Barber Cellars. And if you have not gone in there to do some tasting, you have got to go in there, get a nice little cheese, and the meat plate's so good. And the people are incredibly nice, too. So Barber Cellars, thank you guys for helping us as well. Thank you very much. Favorite quote, I don't think that word means what you think it means. Inconceivable. It's from The Princess Bride, for those of you scoring at home. If you haven't seen The Princess Bride, just leave. Just go. You need to leave, go home and watch it, come back. I warned you that jackassery would be strong. This is from today's independent hearings, according to the person here. So I'll believe that. The jackassery will be very strong. Carpe diem. Quote. All right, your next teller coming to the stage right here. Believe he was on the Steve Allen show back in the day. Took over for Jack Parr for a couple of weeks. And has won 2 Oscars. Ladies and gentlemen, my personal pick for tonight, you're going to love Mr. Rick Roberts, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening. Sometimes you just need a new family. Especially if you've started out your life on some bumpy roads. Like when I was little, it was during the Red Scare, the McCarthy era. My dad spent 6 years fighting a very long prison sentence because of his politics. We're getting serious fast here. And at 10, I was raped by a stranger near our home in Philadelphia, and I kept that rape a secret, and that was my prison sentence. And at 15, without warning, my mom dragged me 3,000 miles away to South Pasadena to live with her and her new lover, the president of the American Nudist Association. So at 16, I figured it was time to find that new family. I put everything I needed on my back. I stuck out my thumb, and I went north to the Haight-Ashbury. It was 1967. And that's where I met Bobby Smith. Now, Bobby had Hawaiian, Portuguese, Native American, and African American blood, copper skin, and a bronze afro. And every second of his life was celebration and art. He drew fantastic psychedelic posters, and I began to draw too. And he'd give me praise and advice. Ricky, I like that one, or how about a bolder line there on that one? And while most of us wore faded denim, Bobby and his flamboyant gay friends dressed in outrageous costumes picked up from thrift stores. Now, they did call it the Summer of Love, but I was so shy and introverted I couldn't even approach or talk to girls. And Bobby knew that, so he pushed me, sometimes with his hand in my back, so I had to go up there and talk to them. And then one night, he just took matters into his own hands. He mysteriously walked me to a house, knocked on the door, and Phaedra answered it. Now, I knew Phaedra, tall, long black hair, cowboy boots, but only because we had locked eyes so many times around the Haight-Ashbury. I'd seen her talking to Janis Joplin between sets at the Fillmore, so I knew she was way out of my league. But that night, she took my hand, smiled, led me straight to her bedroom, where immediately she consulted the ancient Chinese oracle book, the I Ching. And Confucius smiled on me, because I spent that night and quite a few more with Phaedra. So I was crawling out of my shell, but every once in a while I still needed a little help. Like one night, a bunch of us were in Santa Cruz visiting friends, and beds were scarce. So Bobby, this guy named Fernando, and I slept in an old school bus. And during the night, Fernando's hand must have been reaching over Bobby for me, because I woke up when Bobby sat bolt upright. I saw him putting Fernando's hand back where it belonged, and then he scolded. Fernando, you know Ricky's straight, and if that ever changes, it'll be me, not you, so leave him alone. But in 1969, Bobby was arrested as an accessory to a car theft. Now, he didn't even know how to drive, but 3 years earlier, he got a ride across country in a stolen car. I gathered money from our friends, and when I bailed him out, I found out that his name wasn't Smith. His name was Holcomb. And Bobby Holcomb jumped van, left for Europe, and I lost track of him. 2 decades went by. I grew up, I got married, and I had kids. But in some sense, Bobby never left me, because any time that I feel my confidence wavering, I can see Bobby behind me, and I can feel his hand in my back. And then in 1991, I heard a radio disc jockey raving about his trip to Tahiti, and he played the hottest music in Tahiti by Bobby. And I knew it was my brother, Bobby. This was a sign. So I called the station, and I got the record label's address. And I wrote to them, and I asked them if they could put me in touch with Bobby. They sent me Bobby's CD, beautifully illustrated, with his exquisite paintings of islanders and island myths. And the songs in French, Tahitian, and English were joyful odes to island life, many of them backed up by a chorus of Tahitian children. And also enclosed was a letter telling me that Bobby had just recently died. So I was stunned. I had come so close, and I needed to know more. And over the weeks, months, and years, I've been in touch with people in Tahiti, and one amazing thing has led to another. Bobby made Tahiti his home in 1976, and he immersed his art and his music in the Polynesian culture. And he taught that culture to the children of Tahiti through his art and his music. And for that, Tahiti declared him national treasure. And I smiled at that because Bobby had become my big brother exactly when I needed him. And then he became the big brother to an entire island nation. And since then, on the 10th and 20th anniversaries of Bobby's death, Tahiti has issued commemorative postage stamps with Bobby's paintings of Tahitian creation myths to honor his life. So in 14 months, I will be in Tahiti for the 30th anniversary of Bobby's life, along with hundreds of my brothers and sisters at the foot of the sacred volcano where Bobby was buried. So I've learned some Tahitian for the occasion. Maruru Mata Tahia, which means, thank you, brother.
Rick Roberts, ladies and gentlemen, that's Rick Roberts. Okay, before we bring up our next teller, let's see right here. It says, what's your favorite quote? Because it's Saturday and I have $5. Favorite quote of all time, that is right there. Ask not what you can do for, $5. Be careful when you follow the masses. Sometimes the M is silent. 65 million of those people out there. Oh, this next teller coming to the stage, I remember when he hosted the Mike Douglas show and then did 2 guest spots on Merv Griffin. You guys are in for a huge treat. My pick for tonight's champion, no doubt in my mind, and I'm not being biased at all, but you guys are in for a treat. How about a huge round of applause for Mr. John Lair, ladies and gentlemen.
Sometimes we don't know the thing that starts us on our path. 4 years ago, a friend of mine dared me to do an open mic of stand-up comedy. And 4 years later, I ended up talking to a room full of naked people. I'll explain. I was 48 years old, just celebrated my birthday, and I was at kind of loose ends. I think I was going through a bit of a midlife crisis, or a manopause, if you will. And a lot of guys my age go through that. They usually do it a little bit differently. They'll buy a motorcycle, or date a 26-year-old. But my wife said that would make it an end-of-life crisis. So I found comedy. And it got me out of the house. And it got me going to a lot of different places I never expected to be over the next few years. I got better. I started traveling to amazing places like Bakersfield and Eureka. And the glamour was amazing. It was something I'd always wanted to do. But sometimes you're not aware of the skills that you have until they happen. Like, I had no idea I was that good at procrastination. I was doing a show in Campbell, of all places, and another highlight reel. And the host told me he does a show at a nudist colony. Would I like to be on the show? I said, is everybody naked? He said, well, it's clothing optional. Many of the comics don't. I will. I'll be naked. You can do whatever you want. how do you turn down that opportunity? I said, yes, of course. This sounds like something I'll be sharing with 450 strangers in a few months. Sounds great. I went down, clothing optional resort. It's called Lupin Lodge. It's down past San Jose by a little bit. And I got to the gate and I went in and I met the very extremely naked registration man. I was like, I'm all in, I guess. Okay. Woo. And it turned out that the optional part was pretty much just for the comics. Everybody else had eschewed clothing many, many years ago. It was not a problem for them at all. That's fine. That's fine. Actually, when I was little, my dad was kind of a free thinker, and we ended up going to some nudist beaches as a kid, so I wasn't that, shocked, shall we say. But the idea of getting up in front of people and telling jokes, when people are afraid of public speaking, they tell you to envision your audience naked. In reality, not great advice. But the show must go on. I'm a gamer. I'm a professional now. I've made at least $4 a night doing comedy. And I was all set to go up dressed. I had some shorts on, a Hawaiian shirt. It was starting to get cold anyway, and, that's not a good look for a guy. So I thought, that's fine. They'll be naked. I'll be dressed. I'll be funny. This will be great. And the host comes to me, and he is completely naked, and for a very good reason. Like, wow, he deserves to be naked all the time. Absolutely. Absolutely. I was proud for him. Just, woo. Look at you. Good job. I was like, obviously you're going naked. Is anybody else going naked? And it turns out all of the other comics are going nude, including the headliner, who is a 73-year-old woman with her leg in a cast. And I'm thinking, I'm going to have to do it. And I did. Obviously, as you can tell, I am not somebody who usually underdresses. I am not an outdoorsy person. I am very pale. I don't tan. I don't even beige. But I thought, this is a moment. This is a chance to put aside everything else and be in a moment that I will get to remember, or at least try to forget, my entire life. And if you're having a midlife crisis, that's kind of the way you gotta go. So I stepped up to the mic and I told my jokes, and they all laughed. And I realized sometimes you just gotta grin and bear it.
John Lair, ladies and gentlemen, one more time for John. Okay, if you can't dazzle them with brilliance, baffle them with bullshit. Donald J. Trump. Actually, no, I misquoted. That's W.C. Fields. Let's see. What's your favorite quote? Get off my lawn. Good one. It's a classic. There you go. This next teller actually was on the Sally Jesse Raphael show. And followed that up with 2 shots on Geraldo Rivera, or 2 shots at Geraldo Rivera, I'm not sure which. The winner of 7 Academy Awards for music. Please welcome to the stage my personal favorite for tonight, and the winner, probably Jeff Hansen, ladies and gentlemen. Here he is.
Friday night, April 1st, 1985. I'm 22 years old, single, new in town, new in California. I'm looking for a girlfriend. And my best prospects are at the disco dance club Confettis. This place has a cover charge and expensive drinks. And I can't afford to buy girls drinks. I can't finance the romance. But if I get there before 10 p.m., I can beat the cover. And instead of buying girls drinks, I've got dance moves. I can impress the girls with the dance moves I've been practicing. So I get down to the club. I've got my parachute pants on. YMCA by the Village People was playing, and I start asking girls to dance. Oh, in this place, at midnight, they drop all this confetti from the ceiling. It's like New Year's Eve every weekend. It's great. So I'm asking girls to dance, and I am striking out all night long. No one will dance with me. And then the confetti starts to fall. It's midnight, only an hour till closing. But through the confetti, across the dance floor by the bar, I see this girl. She's wearing a black silk top, black leggings, black silk jacket. She looks like Madonna from the movie Desperately Seeking Susan. Really cute. I gotta meet this girl. But it's gonna take my best dance move. I could moonwalk. But I'm not good at moonwalking. I could do Love Shack. I did like a Macarena version of Love Shack. Oh, but then I hear S, 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 A, 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 F, 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 F. Safety dance! Safety dance by men without hats. We can dance if we wanna. We can leave your friends behind because your friends don't dance, and if they don't dance, they're no friends of mine. Safety dance. They had this great move. Like a farm boy version of YMCA. That's my move. So I'm doing this, but I see another guy walk up to her. He asks her to dance. She turns him down. Then on the other side, another guy, he walks up. She turns him down. A third guy turns him down. This girl is not dancing with anyone. I need to rethink this. So I retreat to the men's room. I push the door open. There's 3 dudes in line for every urinal. It's going to be a while. I brush the confetti off. Now, everyone is maintaining the code of keeping our sight at eye level because it's a men's room, right? But I'm thinking about this girl, Madonna, and I see all this confetti on the floor, but mixed in with the confetti, I see $1, another $1, $5, another $5. It's out of my reach, but why is no one picking up this money? They're just walking over it. And then it dawns on me, it's April 1st. It's April Fool's Day. It's a practical joke. It's probably glued down, or it's on a string, or it's just fake money. I may be new in town, but I'm not falling for it. Focus on Madonna. I step forward. I step forward again. Oh, now it's my turn. So I'm peeing. And I'm standing on the money. It's literally under my shoe. And it looks real. And if I ever had a real date with that girl, it would really come in handy to have that money. Like, to buy drinks. I finish. Screw it. If it's a joke, I'm falling for it. I start picking up the money. I'm reaching between people's legs. I get all the money. I head for the door, and this big hand grabs my shoulder, and I hear, "Hey!" Okay, here it comes. Here comes the joke. Here comes the punchline. I look back at this big dude who looks me square in the eye, and he says, "You missed one." And he hands me a $5. Over $20. More than enough to buy drinks. So I walk straight over to Madonna, and I say, "Can I buy you a drink?" She looks me up and down. "Okay, but sit down and talk to me. All these guys keep asking me to dance. I don't like dancing. I wish a guy would just talk to me." We talked the rest of the night. She was really friendly. In fact, she introduced me to another girl who loved to dance. And that girl became my wife.
Jeff Hansen, ladies and gentlemen, one more time. Jeff Hansen. Let's see. I am no longer young enough to know everything. Oscar Wilde. It would be optimal if, at the time of my passing, was neither grasping for what could be nor holding on to what was. Ramdas. Eat shit and die. No, that's not a favorite quote of anybody's. I've read all of them. That wasn't one. I'm just all right. Your next teller right here will be taking over for Judge Judy in the fall and made her television debut on American Bandstand, ladies and gentlemen. Please welcome my favorite teller tonight and probably the winner of this competition, ladies and gentlemen, Mary Kariba.
On my 24th birthday, I woke up and said out loud, I'm going to have sex today. I am going to have sex today. Now, that was a very strange pronouncement for me to make because I had absolutely no prospects on the horizon whatsoever, and I had been plagued with crippling insecurity for almost all of my life. But about a year earlier, when I was 23, I left my hometown of San Francisco, relocated to New Mexico, this state that had almost a mystical effect on me, and everything started changing. And one thing that changed was that I lost weight, a lot of weight, and my whole world changed. Because I was always this heavy kid, got made fun of in school, never asked on a date, never asked to the prom, always insecure about myself. And now I lost this weight. Turned out I had this voluptuous figure, hair down to my waist, and the world changed overnight. Everything changed. Men acted really nervous around me. Women sales clerks said snarky things about fat people right in front of me. It was insane. And so I woke up on this morning with this sort of unfounded and unbridled sense of confidence, this sense of new sexual power and promise. And I set out with great purpose that day, saying I'm a new woman, I'm going to do new things, and I'm going to do them all today. And later that day, I was driving to Santa Fe. I'm at a stoplight. I feel something. I look over to my left, and I see this gorgeous guy in the car next to mine, and he's smiling at me. And I smiled back. And then he gave me one of these. And I'd never gotten one of those. I didn't know what to do back, but this was a day for doing new things, so I gave him one of these. I don't know why I went with the weird sailor salute, but that's what I did. We end up pulled over to the side of the road, talking, hitting it off, that hormonally driven, exciting, gorgeous thing that happens when you're young and juicy and all full of sex, you know? And it was just amazing. And he asked me if I wanted to have dinner, and I said, Mike, his name was Mike, Mike, I would like to have dinner. And I drove behind him to Santa Fe, and the whole time I'm driving behind him, I'm so excited. I'm like, I cannot believe what life is like for attractive people. They just magnetize each other out of their vehicles. I didn't know. And we had this great meal. Mike had this huge New Mexican burrito, Christmas style. Christmas style in New Mexico is having your burrito smothered with loads of real spicy red and green chili. After dinner, Mike said, I guess unsurprisingly, his stomach was really upset. He needed to cut the night short, but he really, really liked me and wanted to see me the next day. Well, this threw me into existential confusion because as far as I was concerned, this plan was unfolding amazingly, and I knew this thing was going down tonight. So I said, I thought I was going to be really seductive and irresistible. I'm frantically trying to think of what seductive people would say. And so I thought I was going to say something really incredible, but what I actually said was, Mike, I wouldn't mind going back to your place for a piece of pie. Why pie? Why pie? What young bachelor has a rhubarb pie back at his place? You know, but I was so out of my depth. So Mike sort of reluctantly brings me back to his tiny apartment in Santa Fe. Couldn't have been more than 150 square feet. And we're sitting in the only place in his little apartment where we can sit together, the bed. And Mike leans in to give me what I now understand was meant to be a goodnight kiss, but which me, in my fevered state of excitement, I took to mean it is on. It's on. It's all happening. It's happening. So I go to fling myself back on the bed so he can get up all on this, you know. And as I fling myself, he was hooking an arm around my back. And so I accidentally and very awkwardly flung him on top of me and back onto the bed, and the bed broke immediately. And the box spring, the mattress, and Mike and I go crashing to the floor with this huge thud. And Mike cries out, "Oh!" and clutches his stomach and runs to the bathroom, whereupon a series of loud explosions began. And I could hear poor Mike in there after every little series of explosion going, "I'm sorry. Excuse me. I apologize." And I was horrified as I lay on that broken bed, frozen 2 feet away from the bathroom. And I could just feel all the sexual power and promise just ebbing out of my body with every toilet flush. And there were so many flushes. So many flushes. So many. And Mike comes out 20 minutes later looking pale, exhausted, embarrassed, and he just quietly gathered up his car keys. I followed him out of his tiny little house. We had a silent ride back to the restaurant, and when we got to my car, he just put out his hand. We didn't make eye contact or exchange a word. We just had this sad little formal handshake. And I never saw Mike again, but I have to tell you, I am so grateful to him for the lessons of that day, because even though it would take me decades to really develop real confidence, you know, the kind that comes from the kind of person you are, it took a long time to develop that, but I learned from that day never to just act on my first impulse. I learned that if I wake up in a state of fevered excitement, it's probably good to stay in bed for a few minutes and think it through. And I also learned to never, ever turn to another driver and give him one of these. Thank you.
Mary Kariba, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, let's see. I got a couple of these. Keep this thing rolling right along here. What's your favorite quote? When your heart's on fire, you must realize smoke gets in your eyes. I believe that was from the Platters, right? There you go. Let's see. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. I know, it's profound, isn't it? Your next teller probably going to win this whole thing tonight. You say it again? Okay, all right. I mean, that's great. You're probably related, and that's fine. It's all great. You may have actually seen her on Don Cornelius's Soul Train. Also, a couple other programs that we don't want to mention here. Another one was Benny Hill. She did do a guest spot on Benny Hill, and probably going to win this whole thing here tonight. You guys are in for a treat. How about a huge round of applause for Claire Hennessy, ladies and gentlemen.
I opened my underwear drawer and then recoiled in horror. With the tips of my fingers, as if it had some hideous contagious disease, I picked up a piece of black baggy material. It was huge. In fact, I needed both hands to lift it up. With dawning dismay, I realized I was looking at a ginormous pair of Bridget Jones-sized big pants. I dropped them on the floor in disgust, where they moved and settled a bit as if they had a life of their own. Bloody hell, they were big enough to have graduated from college and left home. The reason for this unarmed expedition into the murky depths of my underwear drawer is that I was about to reunite with my childhood sweetheart, Bug, who I'd met at boarding school in England and not set eyes on for over 30 years. I'd found him on a school reunion website and discovered he'd moved to live in California. We'd been having an intensely romantic transatlantic courtship, and then Bug decided to fly over to England so we could meet in person. I girded my loins, peered once again into the drawer. Not one pair of my panties was remotely sexy or appealing. I suspected my grandmother had sexier undergarments. A critical look in front of the mirror confirmed my worst fears. Where were my firm and perky breasts? My smooth, peachy bottom? My body was just not the same as the lithe teenage one he had roamed over with his hands in the bushes back at school. In the intervening years, not only had I added 30 years, I'd put on well over 30 pounds and ejected my 2 kids by natural childbirth. In the process, completely destroying my pelvic floor. So, with some newly found courage in one hand and my trusty credit card in the other, I ventured out into the terrifying world of intimate ladies' apparel. And what a bloody nightmare it was. Nowhere had bras to fit Madam's fuller figure, as one assistant so delicately put it. There were either gorgeous padded bras to suit skinny bitches with tiny tits, or monstrous over-the-shoulder boulder holders for the matronly woman who was certainly not expected to have any rumpy-pumpy whilst wearing one. I travelled further afield as desperation set in, each excursion cutting into my already precarious self-esteem as slim shop assistants scathingly pointed out they had nothing in my size. Dejected, thinking I would have to tell Bug not to come, I stumbled into a boutique lingerie store right on my doorstep. The lady was kind and gentle and found me a gorgeous lacy bra which actually fit, lifted and separated in all the right places, and made me, for the first time in my life, feel proud of my ginormous melons. When I told her why I needed the underwear, the owner rushed off with a glint in her eye and insisted I try on some French-style panties. Even my flabby, wobbly little bottom seemed a little more appealing when covered with the delicate silk and lace. So much better than those awful bloody G-strings which just disappeared in for lunch, never to be seen again. A couple of weeks later, I picked Bug up and brought him back to my house. When we eventually got to my bedroom, I went to light the candles I'd strategically placed a bit further earlier on in the day. Turning a minute later, I was stunned. There was Bug standing before me, already naked. In a snap of elastic, he ripped off all his clothes, and there he was, stiff and proud. He made no move to undress me, so there was nothing for it. With much sucking in of stomach muscles, I slowly took off my top and then bent down to peel off my jeans, self-consciously, but a little bit proudly, revealing my flabby menopausal body encased in my surprise present, the gorgeous, expensive lingerie. Ta-da! Instead of saying, "My God, Claire, you're beautiful, and by the way, what fabulous lingerie," Bugger simply turned around, lifted up the duvet, and got into bed. On my side. I stood there for a moment as the dead weight of disappointment thudded in my gut, and then quickly walked round to the other side of the bed, hid myself under the covers. Before I had a chance to say anything, Bug pulled me to him, noticed my bra, undid it, and discarded the most expensive item of underwear I'd ever purchased without a backward glance. I wanted to say, "Oi, do you know how much that cost?" He dealt with my panties with almost the same haste, not seeming to notice their lacy gorgeousness. Later, I asked him if he liked my new underwear, and he admitted he could hardly see in the dimly lit bedroom, and his eyesight was appalling. All that humiliation by snotty store assistants and all that expense for nothing. It had been so long since anyone had seen me naked, and Bug seemed to want to visit every part of me. I wished I was thinner. I wished my boobs didn't fall into my armpits. I wished I'd trimmed my lady garden. Bug didn't seem to notice nor care, often stopping to kiss me and tell me how sexy and gorgeous he found me. I realized that actually I felt sexy and gorgeous. Despite the lack of appropriate admiration for my very expensive underwear, Bug must have found something to appreciate about me because he asked me to marry him. I moved from California with my 2 kids, and this Friday we're celebrating 11 years of marriage. Thank you.
Claire Hennessy, ladies and gentlemen, one more time for Claire Hennessy. All right, let's see. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. Margaret Mead. She's not here. Living with resentment is like letting someone you despise live rent-free in your head. Ayn Rand. Yeah. Wow, she got 2 applauds. Wow. All right, your next teller coming up, believe it or not, my probably favorite teller that's coming up here and probably going to win this whole thing right here. You may have recognized him for 3 separate seasons. He played the villain on Columbo and was a stand-in on Ironside for 3 other seasons. Head writer on Mannix. Please welcome to the stage Harry Sangvi.
I'm at the Starbucks drive-thru ordering my steamed milk as usual, and the cashier, who hasn't seen me yet, says, "Please pull forward, ma'am." I get to the window, and I'm not a ma'am. He corrects his mistake by saying, "Hey, man." I'll bet this never happens to Anthony Hopkins, Morgan Freeman, or Sean Connery. Rather than that deep, husky voice that makes your knees buckle, I was blessed with this high-pitched, nasally voice like I overdosed on nitrous oxide. My entire life, I have hated my voice, and it's actually become much deeper the last 10 years because I paid hella money for dental work to reduce all the gaps between my front teeth. But up until age 40, the best way I could describe my voice is I sounded a lot like Dora the Explorer. When I was in college, I did a lot of internet dating, and it was great because you can't hear a voice through typing until that very first phone call. Once I was having a warm, flirty conversation with this woman from Seattle, and I call her up, and the very first thing she asked me is, "Are you a small kid?" And I finally proved to her that I'm not by spewing out everything I learned in geography class about how the Pacific Northwest is a marine West Coast climate moderated by the Gulf of Alaska. Okay, well, do you even like women? You sound gay. Nope, I'm not gay. I'm not a small child. And I'm not a gay small child either. But the worst thing is, this voice really hindered my career. After I graduated from college with a degree in psychology, my very first job was working at a crisis center. And I loved it, but the problem was a lot of the job was taking phone calls on a crisis hotline. And my calls would go something like this. Hi, you've reached the crisis line. This is Harry. Harry, that's a man's voice. And the callers would think I was lying to them about my gender. And my supervisor took me aside and said I was confusing the callers. I felt I was the one in crisis. Where is the crisis hotline for straight guys with high voices? I thought about changing careers into something that didn't involve voice, maybe going into mathematics or accounting, or how about a mime? That's a job in high demand. But one thing was just very certain. There was nothing redeeming about having this kind of voice. One night at the crisis line, I received a very serious call from a 15-year-old girl named Kelly. And she was despondent and had a bottle of pills next to her. And my supervisor was listening in. And Kelly tells me that she came out as gay and that her family didn't understand. So I did everything I was trained to do. I listened to her, I asked a lot of sympathetic questions, but I just couldn't get her to stop crying. And my supervisor was considering putting a trace on the call to send an ambulance in case she needed help. But then I was left speechless when she asks me, Harry, you're gay, right? And, yeah, here we go again. But then I think, what should I tell her? Because the best thing for the call is for me to say that I'm gay because it would keep the rapport going. But if I tell her the truth and say that I'm not, what if she feels alone and alienated? So I think about it and I just tell her, Kelly, I'm not gay, but I do know what it's like to feel unaccepted for something you feel you can't control. And I tell her this whole story about my voice. And she and I end up having this warm 45-minute conversation. And she says she actually likes my voice because it sounds caring. And she's the first person who ever said that. And she says she's starting to feel better, and I actually feel better too. And it occurs to me that I have spent my whole life ashamed of this voice and running away from it. But the one time I didn't, it may have led to helping to save someone's life. Thank you.
One more time for Harry Sangmi, ladies and gentlemen. There goes Harry. Okay, those of you that are scoring at home, I can see some people penning down there. Real quick, let's see. What's your favorite quote? In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. Is there a land of the blind that I'm... All right. Let's see. There isn't anyone you couldn't love once you've heard their story. Mary Lou Kornacki. Is she here? All right. Next teller. Okay, this is a little far-fetched, but I believe this is probably the winner tonight. He'll be up here in just a sec. But he started out as the driver in the TV movie Duel, the big semi-truck, where he actually met Dennis Weaver and then became his sidekick on McCloud for 7 seasons. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Jan Salamita.
I was 15. It was Sunday morning. My mother was pouring crushed tomatoes into a big pot and frying meatballs on the pan next door. She said, "It's lasagna tonight. Don't be late." By the time I hit the front porch, Johnny, my friend, had arrived. Nice guy. We had a lot of fun together. And he said, let's have some fun today. The one thing about Johnny, though, is he was kind of a bullshitter. He liked telling stories. Like the second he saw me, he goes, hey, last night I was in a bar and there was this great-looking girl and she took me home and slept with me. And then she left the room, her sister came in, we had sex too. Yeah, right. Anyway, we decided to go hitchhiking. That's something we do in those days, just for fun. Sometimes we hitchhiked to like Cambridge, 3 miles away. One time we went to Boston, 7 miles. A lot of fun. So Johnny goes, let's hitchhike to New York. I go, New York? What are you, crazy? He goes, what? I once hitchhiked to Hawaii. Oh yeah? How'd you do that? On the back of a great white? Something like that. So we got on the entrance to the Mass Turnpike and stuck out our thumbs. 2 minutes went by and a Volkswagen Beetle pulled over. An elderly couple had us get in the car and they drove us 60 miles. Awesome. We were on our way. We got out, stuck out our thumbs again. Before we knew it, another guy stopped. This was a sales clerk, and he had one of those old station wagons with the fake wooden siding, and he was like, had all his inventory in the car. He sold phone equipment, and we had to get squished up in the back. I mean, we were like in these contorted positions. We could hardly breathe, but we thought we were having fun. He took us another 50 miles, so we were on our way. But he dropped us on a kind of slower road, a little minor route, and after that, nothing happened for 2 hours, which I didn't even notice because I was having so much fun hearing stories from my friend's amazing imaginary life. But after 2 more hours of not getting a ride, his stories no longer gripped me. My appetite did. I'm going, Johnny, we got to start heading home. It's lasagna tonight. So we crossed the street and we started thumbing and nothing happened. I mean, our luck had turned big time. So we made our way down, walking to a gas station we could see about 2 blocks away. And Johnny started asking everybody we saw if they could, give us a ride if they're going our direction. And we were having no luck at all. No one did. And then this grubby old beat-up Dodge Dart drives into the place, and he goes right up to these 2 sketchy-looking guys. The first one was tall and gaunt, and he had like slits for eyes. You know that look? Hardly even open. And the other one was like pasty white skin, kind of stout, and he had this expression in his eyes, dead. So Johnny said, will you guys take us back in the direction of Boston? They said, okay. We're like, cool. And we hop right in. 5 minutes into the drive, they pull off the road to a residential area, get out of the car at some house. They're going to say hello to Judy. We go up with them, and they're ringing the bell, no answer. And then they're knocking the door, no answer. So they go to the side of the house, go to a ground floor window, open it up, all the while going, Judy, Judy. And they climb inside. We followed. It was dark and musty in there. We're walking into the kitchen as they're pulling down the shades and turning off the lights. Okay, let's do it, said Slit Eyes. And then Pasty starts rummaging through the silverware drawers. Slit Eye turns on the stove, and he's pulling off his belt. He puts the belt through the buckle and kind of holds it up, noose-like. Okay, who gets it first? We're freaking out. Then he says, you guys should close your eyes. Johnny and I lock eyes wide open. Then Pasty hands him a spoon. He takes out a little bottle with some powder in it, puts it in the spoon, holds it over the flame. Out comes a syringe. He fills it up. In the meantime, Pasty's wrapped the belt around his arm. He goes over to his buddy, sticks it in his vein, and pushes it. And then it comes out again, fills with blood, and he pushes it back in. Pasty's eyes go into the back of his head. He starts to falter. The needle comes out 3 shots of blood, hits the wall. Boom, boom, boom. Then, Slit Eyes goes through the whole routine again, takes care of himself, and then he turns to us and goes, I hope we're not freaking you out. To which Johnny, who's gone pale green in complexion, goes, not likely. The 4 of us leave. This time we go out the front door. We get into the car together, and Pasty's driving, and before long says, is that 2 Cadillacs in front of me or 1? Slit Eyes go, it's 1, but what's up with that zebra? We're like, oh, shit. So Johnny goes, I can drive. I'll get a license. He didn't. Too young, but maybe he could drive, please. They let him drive. He drove flawlessly, 102 miles, got off at exit 17 on the Mass Turnpike. The 2 guys got into a phone booth looking for their next fix. We ran the 3 blocks home to my house, went up the back stairs that opened onto the kitchen. My mother goes, just on time, set the table. The aroma of lasagna filled the room, and I gotta tell you, home sweet home.
Jan Salamita, ladies and gentlemen, one more time for Jan. There's more to life than increasing its speed. Gandhi. What a hack. If you just start to act, you will see hope everywhere. Greta Thunberg. Okay, your next teller, absolutely positively the winner tonight, no doubt about it. It was down to her and Angie Dickinson for the lead in Policewoman. And she was Macmillan's first wife. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage, Magda Peck.
I bet you're pretty full by now, huh? 13 stories, lucky. Before I start, can I just ask you to take a breath? It was not supposed to start until 9, but when we pulled into the parking lot at 8:30 to Monroe Middle School in Omaha, Nebraska on a frigid February morning, there was a line already forming from the very front of the school down to the sidewalk. I was wearing my Hillary shirt. It was 2008. And the Nebraska Democratic Party, yes, there is one. The Nebraska Democratic Party decided for the first time in 50 years to hold a caucus. That's when people of a particular persuasion and party come and express their preference for which would be the candidate and then select delegates. Think Iowa. When we got there, I was aware that this was a state that I'd only been in for a few years, 1.8 million people, 60% reliably vote Republican, 89 out of 93 counties always go Republican. But Omaha, Nebraska, one of those outliers, 500,000 people. It is a place that you could always rely on. Now, last civic lesson. In Nebraska, it's only one of 2 states that splits their electoral vote. It's not winner take all. And in fact, you could imagine holding on to hope in a place like Omaha, in a really tight presidential election. It might come down to that one electoral vote, that one blue dot in that sea of red from the Dakotas to Texas. In Nebraska, you learn how to hold on to hope. So we show up on that morning when it was not quite above 10 degrees and the wind was blowing those clouds that only happen when you're crossing I-80 for the 7 hours it takes to get across the state. And we go to set up in the gym, and I look out right as they begin to open the doors for this caucus. The line is now snaked around the back of this middle school. It's down by the football fields. And they start to let people in, and the gym where we put up all those really cool banners, starts to fill up and fill up. People have this white blue piece of paper in their hand they're supposed to write their preference on when it gets to be time after you've had some discussion. But they kept coming, and they kept lining up outside, and they kept coming. They told us maybe 200 people would show up, and within 2 hours, the gym had already exploded beyond its 800-person capacity. People were spilling out into the hallways. They were jimmying the doors to get into classroom. There was no place to put the 1,500 people who showed up on a freezing cold day there in Omaha. And they didn't know what to do. We didn't know what to do. But right at that moment, thank God for Tom Cavanaugh. He had been the head of the Democratic Party so long. He showed up with the fire marshal. And he had a plan. He got onto this chair in the middle of the gym when there was no longer any way to hear anyone else with a bullhorn and shh, shh. Eventually, folks quieted down. Listened to what he had to say. He said, "As chairman of the Democratic Party of Omaha, Nebraska, I hereby declare an electoral emergency." He made it up, but he basically said that if you wanted to express your preference for Hillary Clinton, please fill out your little piece of paper and exit by the main door of the school. And if you want to express your preference for Barack Obama, please leave by the exit of the gym. Let me tell you what happened next. It was remarkable that we got to be selected, 2 of us, to hold the ballot boxes outside in the cold. I got to wear my Hillary t-shirt and thermal underwear and sit outside in the Obama line. Sat on a metal chair as people started to file out, and I was like, how long is this going to take? The box I was holding, we didn't even know what kind of box to use. We broke into the janitor's closet, requisitioned industrial-sized toilet paper box. I'm holding this toilet paper box that used to hold 48 rolls of toilet paper. People are coming slowly. They're just taking their time. They're chatting. In the Obama line, there's some dancing. There's high fives going on. And I want you to know that it was just a moment to be savored. At the end of the line, an hour later, an elderly black gentleman, dressed in his Sunday best, walked slowly with his cane, overcoat, hat, scarf, clutching his ballot, saw me, leaned in on his cane, and said to me, "Girl, you think it'll count this time? Promise me it'll count." And I said to him, "As best I can, sir. As best I can." I like to believe that it was that one sacred moment of a man putting his ballot deep into the box after kissing it, tears rolling down his cheeks, to the fact that Barack Obama took the 2nd Congressional District in Omaha, Nebraska in 2008. We looked up at that jumbo TV in the Hilton downtown, and you could see that one blue dot bobbing up from that sea of Midwest red. 20 years in Nebraska taught me how to hold on to hope. maybe, just maybe, every vote can count. Well, even now, especially now. Well, I promise, at least as best I can, will do the work as best I can. Thank you.
Magda Peck, ladies and gentlemen, one more time for Magda. Okay, that's all 13 tellers. How about a huge round of applause for all 13? In just a second here, we are going to call them all back on stage. But before I do, a couple of little reminders. On your way out tonight, grab yourself a Wicked Buck and come on into Wicked Slush and get a little something and say hi. Say you were at the show. Don't forget the 2 bookmarks we have out there. We're starting that new Story Slam on the 18th of January up at Credo High in Rohnert Park, so make sure you get that. The first theme is the first or the worst. And then January 8th, we are skipping the 1st of January. Normally we do the first Wednesday of every month over at Sonoma Portworks, and we are doing the 8th of January, and that is I'll Never Do That Again. That'll be our theme. And then one other little quick thing before we go on to the voting part of this, and I will explain the voting. I want to give a huge shout out to Bill and Karen Reading for hosting us over at Porkworks for all of these years. We can't thank you guys enough. We love you from the bottom of our heart. Thank you guys so much. I know you're in here somewhere. Thank you guys. So, here's how we're going to do it. After I read you the all of this, we are going to vote, but I'm going to call everybody up here so that you can remember who they all are. Some of them were a while back. But first, let me read you how we're doing this, okay? All right. Most of you have texted before, I think. So what you're going to do is you are going to open up your phone to the texting portion. Up in where you would normally put somebody's name up there, you are going to put 22333. All right? It's going to then go down to the message, and you are going to write the word Grand Slam. It's only one word. Don't let autocorrect change it to 2 words. Grand Slam, and then hit send. Now, it should say that you have joined Juliette Mccarney's voting on Poll Everywhere. Now, right now, I'm going to ask all the tellers to please come back on stage for tonight. Can I have all 13 back up on stage? All right, you are going to, when you choose that session, you are going to put in the storyteller that you think is your favorite storyteller tonight, their first name, all in caps. If you are choosing one of the 2 Johns, you need to use the first initial of their last name also, no space, all caps. Here we go. We are getting votes right now. Who needs help? Turn to your neighbor. Hey, Matt, can we bring up the house lights a little bit? Okay, here you go. This is Ray. This is Deanna. That's Juliette. Then we have John M. All right, then I can't even see down there. We have Jessica. We have Rick. We have John L. We have Jeff. Who's next to Jeff? That's Mary. Then we have Claire, Harry, Jan, and Magda. There you go, folks. We are getting votes in. Everybody has votes, which is great. The names again. All right. For those of you scoring at home, obviously none of you are. Ray is right here. Raise your hand, Ray. Then we have Deanna. Raise your hand. Juliette. John M. Jessica. Rick, Jeff, no, wait a minute, I can't see. John L. is there. Then we have Jeff, Mary, Claire, Harry, Jan, and Magda. They're coming in. It's pretty close right now. Did somebody say they need their names again? Come on, everybody. Perhaps paying attention would be good. Who's having trouble? All right. Again, where is the trouble? What? Can someone help? Someone that has their hand up? Someone who has voted already. All right, I'm still getting votes in, so people are still voting. You only get one vote, though, folks. All right, couple more. Right now, we have a flat-footed tie for first and second place. All right, everybody, here we go. We are getting close. It is so close right here. It is neck and neck. Who's having trouble? Please ask someone next to them. I can't come down, everybody. Again, you were... All right, it is incredibly close here for first place. Second place is a tie. All right, did you get it in? Has everyone voted? Just say yes. Well, no. How is that possible? Again, you are voting. You're going to go to your text. The address you are sending it to is 22333, just like it says in the program. Then you're going to punch in the message is Grand Slam, one word, and hit send. You should join Juliette's. It looks like all the votes have stopped, so I'm going to call it in 10 seconds, folks. Here we go. Yeah, otherwise, we're here all night. In 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. I'm slowing down for those of you who can't do it. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold all calls. We have a winner, ladies and gentlemen. We have a tie for third place, and we will distribute the prizes accordingly. We have a tie between Ray Engan and Rick Roberts for third place. Second place, only 1 percentage point behind the leader. Please have a nice round of applause for second place, John Mattern. And your 2019 Grand Slam champ for the second year in a row, Mary Kariba. Thank you, guys. All the storytellers, I have something for everybody. Thank you guys for coming. We will see you first Wednesday every month. Go ahead and get on our mailing list, and you'll hear about all the other things we have going on. Thanks, folks. Have a good night. Drive home safe.